Hi guys and welcome, Gnemon here with an update to my previous video on wall of chests multi-item sorting system. In this one we will fix a couple of issues with it, test new things and in general improve the design. So if you haven't watched the previous video, please pause this one and get watch the other one, otherwise you will likely be lost really quickly. If you are here just for the tutorial, bear with me for a minute. This section here contains some important and hopefully interesting aspects. Also, some of you requested to put this world up for download, so check the description for links to the world downloads as well as MCAD schematics for a few of the designs. So, if you already built the system and you are worried that it is broken, fear not. It works just fine, however there are a few aspects of the design that could be improved and make the design more robust and flexible. First of all, the wall of dropper towers. The fact that droppers don't follow the same rules than other regular full blocks in terms of when they trigger and when they are powered makes their behavior incoherent to say the least, or buggy to be more adequate. In this case, all of those droppers in this wall are either powered or unpowered in HT. So when they all receive power, they should all fire. So in the ideal situation, we wouldn't even need this line of blocks at the bottom here, since the bottom droppers should receive power from the droppers above them, didn't they? It turned out that items get stuck in them unless we provide them with an update, using those lines of power blocks. And this seems to be sufficient for builds up to 6-7 chests, I believe. However, we would realize with builds 8 and up that items would start getting stuck again at higher levels, which is ridiculous because it happens due to existence of droppers right at the bottom. The situation is even worse when we have odd number of those columns in a group, like 3, then they can get stuck even lower. To fix this issue completely, what we can easily do is to offset every other column of droppers by 1, breaking the block connection between them, and therefore not allowing them to butt power each other. In this case, you just need to provide the outer columns with an extended signal using additional pieces of dust, just to connect them with the redstone blocks. Second is a small but likely an important addition, which is due to the fact that in the original design, the slab towers powering the outer pistons were sticking really out of the build, adding additional 6 blocks on each side to the width of the build. Since it was sticking out only in one place, it might not be an issue for some of you, but using some easy tricks you can decrease it to 5 by powering these pistons through a block with a tower on the back, or if you have some space in the front of the build, power them from the front side, decreasing the stick out distance to 4 blocks, which is reasonable. And even with that design you can still cover the contraption pretty neatly. And if you use redstone lamps as your decoration blocks, you can use it as an indication that the pistons are pumping. Second improvement is the idea I got from JL2579 Sorter Box video, where they suggested instead of using the global hopper pulse extender, to use a smaller traditional pulse extender using comparators. Global pulse extender is fine, but makes the system run with the assumption that each item has to make it to the end, even if it actually finds the chest at the beginning. Moreover, if we add more items to the middle of the pulse extension, the hopper timer is not able to reset midway, which may cause some items to get stuck till the next time we use the system. This is not that big of a deal, as it will clear up next time we use it. JL2579 idea was not only to capture the signal when items show up at the beginning of the system to get through it, but also at every step an item makes a loop over the hopper wall. This not only ensures that the system is running shorter, but also prevents us from locking some items in it, as traditional pulse extender using comparators is much more reliable and can be refreshed mid-pulse. For that, we can either grab the input from the bottom of the dropper towers at the back, or from the bottom hoppers at the front, and both approaches have their benefits. The back approach allows the system to have no redstone components up the front, making it possible to put some other contraptions at the front of the build as well, not causing any interference with the whole sorting system at all. For that reason, I decided to go with that design in the sorting system in my own world, which this is an exact copy of it, including the items in the chests. This build is devoid of all sorts of redstone sorcery, not only in the front, but also at the bottom of the contraption, and all that sorcery I was able to fit in the back of the core of the build. There is one word of caution with this approach though. Since droppers are clocked sort of independently of the items showing up in those bottom droppers, it may happen, but it's quite unlikely and unfortunately location specific, for these items to get unnoticed through the bottom dropper. It happens when an item lands in it and in the same tick the dropper above it decides to suck out an item out of it. And it is location specific because if the comparator is processed before the dropper, you get this signal, but if it's after it, then the comparator misses an item and is not able to refresh the signal. How do I know that it is location specific, you may ask? Simple. This contraption here is the exact copy of the build in my world using MCEdit, and here it works perfectly fine. But in my world, the system wasn't able to register some items going through it. There's however a simple trick to it that solves this problem, and I'll show how to fix it when we get to my world. What would be the best way to get there? So as you can see, currently I have here a few chests organized manually, like most people do. And here is the traditional single item sorting system for all the bulk drops of farms around here. So I guess we will build one right here. So we will need some pistons. There's none here. We need some cobble, planks, grab the 3 stacks, redstone. Sheesh, forgot about iron. Wait, there is none here. Where did all my items go? I know. They're all in the new system. That was quick. And let's go to the back so I can show the trick I used when I didn't have those items registered by some of the comparators. Can you see how the order of repeaters and dust changes comparing to the other side? This allows to speed up the signal that goes only to the 2 droppers that were banging out, making them fire before the items arrives, allowing this comparator to detect them. Again, this is a very unlikely situation and it's actually good it happened to me, so I can give you a fix right away. Now get back to the redstone testing world, which was somewhere here, I believe, below this one? No. Maybe below this one. Oh yes, okay. Now go back to the serious stuff. The second approach is to get the input from the bottom hoppers. Since all items spend some time there, this design works 100% of the time and takes potentially less space since the comparators are below the build, not behind it. In fact, I think this design is the thinnest wall of chest type sorting system to date. Some of you asked me to do a step-by-step tutorial how to build my original system, but I think I'll do the tutorial on this design, which is much more compact and robust. What you can easily do with this design as well is to grab those pulses and power a line of redstone lamps in the floor, indicating in a cool way where the items flow currently through the system. There is one more concern with the system, which is the noise. Pistons are necessary in this design as they are core of the concept behind this build, and their sound doesn't seem to amplify with more of them firing at the same time. Arguably, their sound is also less annoying comparing to ticking of the droppers when they don't have items in them. A solution to it would be to detach them from the redstone blocks and power them individually using the system of clever item elevators proposed by JL2579. It's all fine and dandy, but this design has a significant flaw. If we open a trapped chest in the system while the system is running, we may form a small backlog of items behind this chest. What this does is the fact that now a few items will be traveling with a hopper speed through the system, and not being spaced out properly using the built-in 16 clock. Since the dropper elevators needed to be redesigned to allow them to stack one next to each other, this formed a circuit that uses 4 delay components to push a single item. Since hoppers take exactly 4 ticks to process an item, those dropper towers would now clog if items are provided to them at hopper speeds, locking permanently that comparator here. Notice that there is no clock built in this elevator design to resolve those backlogs, therefore I wouldn't recommend this design overall. The other design may be loud, but robust enough to prevent items from locking the system completely, even if a small backlog is formed. So this design here cannot be used when it is processing items, so the entire appeal of a silent system puffs away since you have no reason to stay near it to enjoy its silence, because you cannot touch it while it's working. Again, if it doesn't discourage you, feel free to use this design, it's quieter. Other aspect pointed by others is the potential lag of the system. First of all, there are 2 types of lag: server lag, which causes your game to crash, and client lag, which squashes your FPSs. In terms of the server lag, even the big 256 double chest setup I have here increased the CPU of my server by about 20%, and only when it actively sorts the items, unlike traditional sorting system which lag all the time. On the client side, you will notice the dropped frame rate when the system sorts items, but is not significant and nothing to worry about. Most of the lag comes from the light updates caused by the redstone blocks, which would allow lights to pass through them when they are moving. Lighting up the inside and the outside of the sorter would help reducing that light updates. Also, covering the top hoppers with blocks with inventory like Ferni would help reducing the hopper lag a bit, but again, not significantly. The last aspect is the spatial flexibility, meaning how you can space out other layouts other than a flat wall. The issue here is that the pistons, with powering them slab towers, require some extra space on the sides, so it might be tricky to put 2 systems side by side. First look at this one, which offsets one section to the back of the other. We can see that we can align the pistons next to each other and still have space to power them independently. Other interesting question is, can we build a corner sorting system in this fashion? The answer is yes, but we need to power both sections in sync, as those pistons in the corners form a zipper design and needed to be powered simultaneously. This adds a requirement that those separate sections should be working on the same clock and be in sync. Which all led me to this design. I thought since you can have one wall of 8x8 chests, you can attach the second one to it, and then another one, and then another one. Since the depth of our system is relatively small due to the principle it runs off, the final build is not that humongous, so I decided to build it here. It uses 22x22x17 area to sort 256 double chests of items, and all the resources to build it in mid-air are collected in those 2 chests. Moreover, standing here in this 2x2 area, we can reach all the chests in the system, which I thought was pretty cool. This design also cuts down on lag, making sure that only those sections that are actually processing the items are being run. Since those zipper piston columns have to be in sync, the system runs from a central clock. But the contra piston towers are locked using those if gates, which block the signal when the particular section is not in use. For that, each section has its own pulse extender to keep the contra piston towers running when there are items present currently in that section. The schematics and the world download for it will be available in the downer, so you can play with it on your own. So now let's start with a tutorial for this design. So to build it, you need the following resources. To get things started, you need to dig out 7 by 16 area behind where your wall goes 4 blocks deep. The build occupies 8 by 16 area because it digs into the front wall a bit, but this bit would go under your floor anyways. We'll start in medias res here, as placing the circuitry at the bottom with all the bits above it would be quite problematic. So the input from the item detectors indicating that an item is in the system and we need to run it for a while will go here. So we are adding a small pulse extender here. Then we take its output through this block to the main pulse extender. For this size of the sorting system we are building here, which is 7 by 8 chests, we need 12 comparators, which allows to maintain the signal long enough for the items to loop through one slice of the system. If you plan to build it higher, you will need to add more of those, and if you make the system tinier, you can take some out. Then we need to connect a clock to this pulse extender running on 16 tick, so we need a comparator set to subtract mode, with a repeater set to 3 ticks, block, dust, and a repeater set to 4 ticks here. Then we connect it to a falling edge monostable circuit, which is just 2 repeaters like so, dust, and a repeater set to 2 ticks, locked by that one and running into that block, which is the input for the first of the slab towers. Then we need to delay the signal by 8 ticks to go to the other tower here. Remember, we need to maintain a 2 tick pulse length. Next, we need to take the signal and move it across, adding in total 3 ticks to the signal from the other side. So we take the signal from this block, put a repeater here, continue the line, add next repeater here and the third one here into this block. The fourth pillar branches out here, adds 2 more delay to get the 3 ticks offset and delays it further by 8 ticks with 4 repeaters and runs into this block. That's all your bottom section done, so you can test it at this stage by powering this pulse extender and observing the movement of pistons. If I remove the power, the system will still run for some time until the main pulse extender fades out. Now we mark where the chests would go using some temporary blocks, so I will start 1 level below the floor level, going 7 chests up and 8 across. The chests are all doubles, so we fill the second layer with temporary blocks so we can place the hoppers later. Then we need to add 2 more layers of the temporary blocks above it and 1 below the chest area. Then we need to place hoppers facing all those blocks. It is really important to make sure that they do not point down but away into those temporary blocks. Behind the hoppers go redstone blocks, which go by 1 more on this side and go with an air block on the other side. I use a temporary block here. Then we need to mark where the dropper towers go. We start 1 block over the first redstone block and then with a zigzag pattern we continue until the end of the redstone blocks with a gap in the middle. Then we wire the bottom parts of the hopper loop. So the items will be going first from the first dropper tower up top to the first hopper tower, which we need to connect to the second tower like so. Then we continue to the gap and then need to start offsetting the hoppers by 1 tower like so. Then we do the inputs. Since this hopper points to the default chest, we don't need one below it. First we create a ledge from the bottom hoppers. Run comparators and repeaters set to 2 ticks from them, which will give us a pulse if the items go through it, refreshing the pulse extender at the bottom. We connect them using a wire and then go up the block here. Then we need to fetch the signal from the starting dropper, where the items will be backing up, grabbing the input through a block, using comparator and repeater set to 2 ticks. Then we build a primary pulse extender here that converts an impulse to a longer signal. And then feed it into the circuitry below with a repeater. Then we need to stack jump the droppers, adding 9 more to each of the tower holding shift, so they are 1 block below the top hoppers. Then we can put all the redstone blocks and connect them to the droppers using repeaters. Doing 1 layer at a time makes it easy to do it in survival, because you don't need to fly nor squeeze into uncomfortable places to place all the blocks. So you do the repeaters first. Followed by 4 dusts here. And finish with 2 layers of redstone blocks. I'll add those 2 air blocks here so we don't forget about them. On the other floors we need to fill the floor with slabs. And then put the repeaters and dusts. And then go up the level again. At the top we will end up either with 2 or 1 redstone blocks above the last level, and both of them should work just fine. Then we can connect the tops of the dropper towers with the hoppers. So the first tower, the input, connects to the first hopper like so. Then we continue around with the next one. And then when we reach the middle, we should end up with a straight connection to the remaining hopper towers. After that, we need to add the neutral blocks to the wall of redstone blocks. We start with a line on both sides. And then form a zipper, adding 5 blocks on this side. And 4 on the other. Then place regular pistons on the insides of those zippers. Add temporary blocks on the sides of the pistons. And run the other line of the pistons using those temporary blocks to place those pistons. Then we add slab towers attached to the pistons like so. Connect the wire on the slab towers with its inputs. And get rid of all the temporary blocks. And the build is technically done. When we attach the input chest to the first bottom dropper using hoppers like so, and you can place the input chest somewhere in this area. Then place a single item in the input chest and run the system to make sure it makes it to the end. The last step is to attach the chest alternating between rows of regular and trap chests. And that's the entire system done. The only thing left is to prime the chest with items we want to store in each chest. Thanks a lot everybody for watching. If you liked this video, please leave a like, share and subscribe for more redstone videos in the future. Let me know if you like those little clips in the middle from my world. I like when a contraption is applicable to the actual survival scenario, and I hope that these clips prove it. So thanks and see you in the next one. Bye bye.